Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the council chambers. It is time to start the meeting, and I will now call it to order the Apex regularly scheduled Apex Town Council meeting for February 13th, 2024. Again, thanks for being here. Thanks to those who have joined us by live stream. It is Black History Month, and Apex is celebrating that, not just for the month of February, but throughout the entire year. But we do reflect on significance of many people who have made contributions in our community. And tonight we will start the invocation, and it's going to be delivered by Jediah Dancy, who is our Mayor's Internship Program Ambassador with the Champion Apex team and a junior at Apex Friendship High School. Oh, I'm sorry, senior. Oh my God.
You get your facts.
My goodness. Ellen, you gave me the wrong script. I'm kidding. No. That's all on me. Sorry, Jediah.
You're good.
Mine says senior.
Hi, everybody. Like he said, my name is Jediah Dancy, and I am part of the Mayor's Internship Program. And I'm just kind of here to share my reflection on Black History Month and what it means to me. So, as I look back on Black History Month, I see unwavering resilience, courage, and strength. I am inspired by the Black leaders, activists, artists, scientists, and everyday heroes who, in the face of adversity, pave the way for progress, justice, and equality. From the fight against oppression to the triumphs of innovation, the journey from then to now has been a testament to a different kind of power, a power that truly exemplifies what it means to be Black and beautiful. For me, Black history isn't just about remembering the past. It is about building our future. We all have to remember that in challenging times, there is power in unity. The work is not yet done, but together we can continue to work towards a better future for all. We must continue to stand firm in the face of injustice, advocate for change, and celebrate our differences, because that is how we as a society can continue and honor the work of those who came before us. I consider myself a very fortunate person to be born and raised right here in Apex, in a community where a sentiment of unity and inclusion is the standard. Apex is growing. We all know it. We all see it. But what I love most about the growth is that as we grow in numbers, we also grow in recognition. What I mean by this is that in these past few years, I have loved to see our community's focus on diversity truly flourish. I have attended festivals and celebrations where I've been able to experience different cultures' food, music, and other arts. I can also remember walking through the downtown area in protest with the Black Lives Matter movement. And just a week or so ago, one of my best friends was able to set up a try on a hijab booth, kind of right down in downtown, in honor of World Hijab Day. And I thought that was pretty cool as well. Being able to hear from and learn about other cultures is truly amazing. Apex has been coined the peak of good living, and I say that we keep earning this honor by ensuring that we continue to be the welcoming community that I love and more. Like I mentioned before, the work is not done yet, but I can't wait to see what we do next. And before I go, I just want to leave off with this quote from former President Barack Obama. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Thank you.
Awesome. Good job. Great job, senior. All right. All right, if you are able, will you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. We're now moved to the consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Zimmerman. Second. Gant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We have a approved consent agenda. We'll now move into presentations. The first presentation tonight is Apex Public School Foundation, the quarterly Peak Star Award. Second quarter, presented tonight by Barb Conroy and Foundation of Apex Public School Foundation. And leading the night is Councilman Terry Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. So welcome, everyone. Tonight, we are presenting the Peak Star Award, which stands for Staff, Teachers, Administration Recognition Award. It's an award that we do. We've partnered with the Apex Public School Foundation to select an honoree and hear a little bit about the great work that's happening in our public schools and what these educators and staff are doing to support our students, support our children in the area. It's a great opportunity for us. And we're very proud and very thankful for all the work that they do, and that's why we're doing it. So at this moment, I'd like to call up and turn it over to Bob Conroy, the president of Apex Public School Foundation, to tell us about the foundation and our honoree tonight.
Chalkboard, sorry, y'all. Thank you, Councilmember Mahaffey, and hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for having me again. As you said, my name is Barb Conroy. I am pleased to be representing the Apex Public School Foundation at tonight's meeting. As you are well aware, the Apex Public School Foundation serves 19 Apex area Wake County public schools. Next year, that is growing to 20. We currently have 3 high schools, 5 middle schools, and 11 elementary schools. Next year, that will be 12 elementary schools in the Apex area. Our primary program is the Teacher Grant Program, and that's where we fund teacher proposals and initiatives that are not covered by traditional funding sources. We really focus on programs that increase student engagement, primarily innovative, creative, collaborative curriculum. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more after our Peak Star Award tonight. Every Tuesday, the APSF celebrates outstanding, extraordinary educators in our schools. The weekly shout-out honorees are then eligible for this quarterly award that we're so grateful to be collaborating with the town of Apex on. So thank you, Councilmember Mahaffey, for introducing this to our community. It is my pleasure to introduce this quarter's Peak Star Award, Ms. Erin Muse of Salem Middle School, where she serves as a math interventionist. Not only is she committed to her work of supporting students, but she is also a gifted teacher leader. She's creating school-wide intervention systems and supporting her colleagues in their journeys to best meet the students' needs. Our students win when our teachers are gaining skills and our students are being supported. Mr. McCullough, the principal at Salem Middle School, shared, Ms. Muse's passion and commitment to student and staff academic success is truly appreciated and inspiring. So please join me in congratulating Ms. Erin Muse for being this quarter's Peak Star winner.
Right. Thank you so much for all your work and everything you do for our students and kids.
Thank you very much. This is such an honor. Thank you.
Okay, come on up.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, stand here.
You need a stagger.
They charge me for that?
All right here. Awesome. All right.
Really quickly. As I shared earlier, the APSF Teacher Grant Program is our primary program, and through these grants, funds are awarded to support teacher initiatives to enhance student engagement through creative, innovative, and collaborative experiences. This year, we are awarding over $10,000 to 6 teachers in Apex area schools. One grant will be awarded tomorrow, so I can't talk about it tonight. But I will share a little bit about the 5 we've awarded to date, and next week I will send all of you an email outlining all 6 in greater detail. This morning, it was my pleasure to award the Karen Cinders Memorial Grant for 2024. As you all know, Ms. Cinders was the beloved principal at Lufkin until she passed away unexpectedly in 2022. But this morning, we awarded a grant in her legacy to Apex Friendship Middle School, Trebuchet Away. This grant funded kits to provide engineering and design students with a hands-on experience during their Trebuchet unit. A trebuchet is a kind of catapult, but not all catapults are trebuchets. So I learned something too. We also funded the KTL McDonald's grant. We are so grateful for our partnerships with area businesses. The KTL McDonald's grant went to Westlake Elementary School, where they created a school collaboration workshop. This funded equipment to create workshop space to serve the home base for sustainable, flexible, ongoing series of vocational projects. The teacher who wrote this grant is a STEM teacher, and he wanted to revisit basic vocational skills as well in the workshop space, and this grant allowed for that. At Oakview Elementary School, we funded mirrors and windows in diverse classroom libraries. We funded books for a 5th grade team to provide windows that offer students perspective to the world beyond them, as well as mirrors where they get to see themselves in their reading. At Apex Friendship High School, we funded spicing up our sensory routine. This program provided materials for the existing PEPI program, which pairs special education students and non-special education students in recreational activities. Both the PE teacher and the special education teacher were looking for additional materials to provide new experiences and new skill development. And finally, at Middle Creek Elementary School, we funded TV in Action. The Middle Creek Elementary students are going to be creating their own TV production show for their school community and needed some equipment to do that efficiently. So we are excited. I will send you some more information, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Lovely, great work, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Haffey. And we'll move now to presentation 2. This is the proclamation for Black History Month. And we will share a reading tonight, as we always do in Unity. We'll kick it off with Councilwoman Killingsworth and move through. Thank you.
All right. Proclamation for Black History Month 2024. Whereas during the observance of Black History Month, the town of Apex intentionally highlights the substantial contributions made by Black Americans and those of African descent to our town, community, and country, and
Whereas the origin of Black History Month traces back to Dr. Carter G. Woodson in 1926, who wanted to bring national attention to the contributions African Americans have made to the history of our nation, and
whereas we affirm that Black history is American history, with the essence of Black culture, narratives, and achievements serving as a cornerstone of our national identity, and whereas the town of Apex acknowledges the historical stains from the institution of slavery, Jim Crow, and redlining, as well as the ongoing repercussions of systemic injustices endured by the Black community, and
whereas in honor of Black History Month, the town of Apex is proud to present a hip-hop dance class on February 10th at the Senior Center, and the Counter History Ice Cream Social and panel discussion on February 15th at the Halley Cultural Arts Center, which will explore 2 programs documenting Black history in the South, the Counter History Royal Ice Cream Sit-In and the Virtual MLK Project.
Now, therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of Apex, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2024 Black History Month in the town of Apex, and invite residents to join us in enriching our knowledge of the contributions of Black Americans and in celebrating their lives and culture throughout the year. Signed the 13th day of February 2024. And we have several members of the community tonight that we want to honor. So I'm going to come around and call those individuals up. Joining me tonight is Linda Graham-Jones, our DEI director. So if you would join me. Thanks.
Want to tell me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, the first recipient tonight, we will honor Clarice Atwater. In 1975, Clarice Atwater became the first Black mayor pro tem in Apex. Atwater was a town council member for more than 12 years. She was a visionary who saw and fulfilled the need of long-term care facility in the area by building and operating the Atwater Rest Home, which was located at 312 Lynch Street. So tonight, Phyllis Daniel, if you would please come up and receive the proclamation in her honor. We want to take a group picture? Yeah. Okay. So if you want to just remain up here for right now, thank you. All right, the next one is the Davis family. So we honor Sarah Davis first. In 1963, Sarah Davis, an Apex resident, traveled by bus to Washington, D.C. to hear what we know as one of the best speeches in America by Dr. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream. Sarah Davis was the wife of one of Apex's most beloved ministers, Reverend William Davis. They were an inspirational couple known as a voice of hope for the Black community, providing carpentry skills, financial resources, and advocacy. So tonight, receiving the proclamation will be the daughter of Reverend Davis and Sarah Davis, Kim Davis. So please come up. All right, next we will honor Ms. Abraham Justice and Karina Justice. In 2022, Justice Heights was officially established, formerly known as Lynch Street. The street was renamed to honor the late Abraham and Karina Justice, who developed the land to provide homes for the Black community in Justice Heights. Receiving the proclamation tonight is Merle Morrison, niece, Ursulyn Holmes, great niece, Reggie Thorpe, great nephew, Alicia Rouse, great niece, and Tawana Austin, great niece. If you would please come up. All right, next we have Mr. Waylon Matthews. After the town of Apex was established in 1873, Waylon Matthews became one of the first businessmen, Black or white, to build, own, and operate a general store. It was right there in the middle of downtown, 121 North Salem Street, which is now Wake Remodeling. So receiving the proclamation to honor Mr. Matthews is his great-granddaughter, Karen Lee.
Thank you for initiating this in 2019.
All right, next we have John Wayne Beckwith. I love that name, John Wayne. John Wayne, in 1962, John Wayne Beckwith became the first Black police officer at Apex Police Department, serving from 1962 to 1964. And here receiving the proclamation in his honor is his nephew, Pender Beckwith.
Thanks, sir.
On behalf of the team.
He came to witness.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
And by the way, you often hear about the cousins I have in town. John Wayne is my cousin, so he really is. All right, we have 2 more recipients tonight. We want to honor 2 individuals who put together Juneteenth in our town. The town was not recognizing Juneteenth, and these young people came in and said, we have to do it. We have to figure it out. And they went forward and got it done. They continue to work at it today. So we have Juneteenth coming up this year, and we're excited about it. So I want to call up Anthony Barnes Jr. and Tyler Evans. If you would please come up. And I do have to mention one more name so I won't get in trouble, but my daughter, Calabria Gilbert, was also part of Juneteenth, so thank you. All right, give everyone a round of applause, please. All right, so now it's your show. We got to figure out how to take these pictures. Yeah.
Looks like everybody is holding an award. Stay, come across right here in the middle.
I think we should go back.
It'll make it easier.
Yeah. Okay. Can y'all stand back towards that wall right there? Everybody with me coming through. One, power day, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I would just like to just mention, we all enjoy this Black History celebration that we've been enjoying since 2020. But I want to thank Councilmember Audrey Killingworth and former Councilmember Nicole Dozier. They initiated this. They came and made a statement to the town council and giving them a need, showing them the reason we need to celebrate all the rich history that we have in here. And they said we needed to start celebrating. And I'm so glad that they made that initiative, because I used to have to go to neighboring towns. But now the town of Apex is on board. We have a wonderful Black History Month, and the town is to be commended, and all the staff that works on it. And, you know, just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I know it means a lot to me for my family to be recognized all these years. And there's so many other families that's contributed to Apex's history. We really just kind of scratched the surface a little bit, you know. But hopefully we continue every month, every Black History Month, we're adding more to it and doing more research and highlight. And thank you so much for documenting and helping us have this sense of pride and this sense of unity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. All right, thanks everyone for being here to receive the proclamation. We'll move now to presentation 3, and this is the Wake County 2024 reval results, presented tonight by Nicole Creaser, Wake County Deputy Tax Administrator. Good evening.
My name's Nicole Kreiser. I'm the Deputy Tax Administrator for Wake County. And I have to say that's a really hard act to follow, so much outstanding history and acts, and then I'm coming to talk about property taxes. So, glad to be here. Tonight I'm going to give a brief overview of revaluation, why it's required, our revaluation project, the results, information available for property owners, and next steps. So let's start off with a little lesson. So what is revaluation? It's simply the process of updating Wake County's real property values to reflect fair market value as of January 1st, 2024. Why do we do it? State law says we have to. But more importantly, revaluation ensures property values accurately reflect true fair market value so that property tax burden is spread equitably across all taxpayers. State law says that counties must conduct a revaluation once every 8 years. In 2016, the Board of Commissioners, recognizing rapid growth, changed from an 8-year cycle to a 4-year cycle. 2020 was the first revaluation on that 4-year cycle. 2024 is the second one on that 4-year cycle. So what does revaluation include? It's real property. It's your residential and your commercial land, plus your structures on it, homes, apartments, condominiums, and then it's also commercial. It's office buildings, stores, warehouses. It's, again, fair market value. It's the most probable price a property would bring in at sale in an open and competitive market. So it's not a land transaction or a building transaction where you got your uncle who decides to sell you a house for $10,000 that doesn't reflect fair market value. We're looking at sales from a willing buyer and a willing seller that don't have any other interest except for the transaction of that property. And again, the effective date is January 1, 2024. Revaluation impacts approximately 89% of Apex's property tax base. The rest of the tax base in Apex is excluded from revaluation because this is personal property, registered motor vehicles, or public service utilities. That's about 11% of Apex's tax base. These things are appraised annually. So how do we do a revaluation? It's mass appraisal, and I think it's important that to communicate, mass appraisal is different than fee appraisal. Fee appraisal is when you have an appraiser that comes in because you're maybe refinancing your house and you need someone to comes in, they measure each room, they're taking pictures inside, they're looking outside, and they're coming up with an estimate of your home's value. Mass appraisal is using large number of properties as of a given date, data, standardized methods, statistical analysis to arrive at uniform and equitable values. We use mass appraisal techniques and analysis from appraisal staff, as well as computer-assisted mass appraisal software. For a county as large as we are, we're not going into everyone's home. In fact, I think most homeowners would be like, why is the county trying to come into my home? So we are doing, using sales and information plus field reviews to come up with what our fair market values are. For a revaluation, the sales approach, the cost approach, and the income approach are all considered when applicable to appraise real property. We're using all three approaches to value, dependent on the nature of the property. I want to talk through the revaluation steps because I think it's important to understand it is a systematic process, and what the county is doing is taking a large number of properties and then drilling it down to an individual property's owner assessed value. So how do we do that? The first step is neighborhooding. The county's 425,000 plus parcels are divided into 5,100 neighborhoods, and these neighborhoods are based off of similar market, economic, and geographic conditions. We're trying to do apples to apples. We're not trying to compare an assessed value of a house here versus something in a completely different neighborhood, a different type of property, a different type of zoning. We're looking at individual market areas to determine assessed values. Then we're taking the property sales of homes and land to analyze those and look at, well, what are those characteristics that influence market value? Let's look at the data. Let's look at and get standardized rates, and then use that to appraise real property in the county. So then we canvass the neighborhoods. That's that field and office review. So once we have a standard set of data, we want to see if that's right. Does that make sense? So we do office and field review, looking at properties online in the field to see if our rates that we initially established make sense. Then we do adjustments, we do QA, we do QC, and that gets us to the point when we're ready to do notice of assessment and appeal review. So in January, property owners are mailed their notices of their new assessed value, and then they have the ability, if they want to file appeals. So those are the 4 revaluation steps. I wanted to share a little bit about our revaluation review activity. We tripled the amount of field reviews this revaluation cycle. So if you see, there's 177,455 properties were field reviewed. And again, it wasn't an appraiser working for tax administration coming into somebody's house. But we were on the public right-of-way, and we were looking at properties, say, does this make sense? Does it compare to our values? Are adjustments needed? Our office reviews, those were typically for properties that were built after the year 2000. So we divided what we were looking at to get our eyes on properties that were built before 2000, those were the field reviews, and then properties built after 2000, we analyzed those looking at what we could glean from our office. So let's look a little bit about the revaluation history. This represents the revaluation cycle since 92. 92 to 2000 was an 8-year cycle. 2000 to 2008 was another 8-year cycle. 2008 to 2016 was an 8-year cycle, and then you see the 4-year cycle in 2020. You can see the vast amount of growth that's happened in Wake County. Single-family homes went from 105,000 in 1992 to 312,000 in 2020, and there's even more today. And you can also see, look at our tax-based growth from 92 into 2020 and how exponentially high it's increased. So where are we at today? As of 1/1/24, Wake County has 427,527 parcels. And I guarantee you that number is even higher because more property has been divided into a subdivision since we pulled these numbers. You can see that the residential parcels are about 404,000, commercial parcels are about 24,000. What does it look like for Apex? There's about 27,000 residential parcels, 1,098 commercial parcels, looking at 27,599, round up to 28,000 real property parcels for the town. And here's the revaluation results. This is a county-wide average. Again, your assessed value is property specific, but when you look at the county as a whole, you're going to see a residential change over the last 4 years. The assessed value has increased 53% for residential, 45% for commercial, for an overall average of 51%. For Apex, that's 57% residential, so that is higher than the county average. Your commercial is also higher than the county average at 53%, for a total increase of 56%. This slide shows you the percent change by jurisdiction, and you can see that Apex, on a percentage basis, is the second highest increase in residential value. This is a heat map, and what we wanted to show was the parts of Apex and the percentage change. And you'll see most areas are in the green color, that's 50% to 65%, or 65% to 90%. And there's some that are obviously lower and some that are higher. But that gives you a flavor of what the growth has looked like in the town. This is a median single-family home. Before revaluation, it was $366,837. Fair market value is now $579,997. And again, this is reflective of the market. It's what that has happened over the last 4 years in the county, in this area, that determines the value of what homes sell for. And this is the change. Commercial property in Apex has increased $1 billion before revaluation and after revaluation. And this shows, well, what has contributed to that change. So we kind of joke that If you didn't invest in mini storage facilities, you really missed out on a good investment. Everybody doesn't keep stuff at their home anymore. They rent a mini storage unit and put it in. So they're maybe not as high, obviously dollar-wise, but on a percentage increase, they've had the largest value increases. Industrial, apartment, retail, restaurants and office, and so on, you can see their corresponding increases for those commercial types of property. I wanted to share a before and after for the town. So before revaluation, the town of Apex, 82% was residential property, 18% of the value was commercial. That has shifted a little bit, so commercial property has decreased 1% to 17%, and residential makes up 83% of the tax base. These are the municipal total tax bases. And remember, tax bases include real property, which I've been talking about for revaluation, as well as your personal property that's included in your total tax base. But you can see the percentage growth for all of the different towns in the county. The next part of my presentation is that I wanted to share resources available to the public. And changes in property value are scary. Homeowners may not understand what the tax administration office is, besides somehow in their escrow statement they know they pay taxes. Sometimes we are the only folks in the county that they have a county service interaction with. So what we've done is a lot of work to try to demystify the revaluation process and give tools available to the public. The first thing we've done is included in every notice of assessed value was a brochure that explains what revaluation is. It's what is revaluation, why is it important? It's a lot of the information I covered at the beginning of this presentation. Why do we do it? What happens to my value? Will it stay the same? What's going to happen to my property tax bill? What if I disagree with the value? How do I file an appeal? What about tax relief? We've also distributed copies of these flyers to every location where citizens can go and pay their property taxes. So they should be at Apex's Town Hall. We did that the first day when we presented the revaluation results. If anyone in the town needs more brochures, happy to make sure that the Town Hall has them. The second thing that we did was updated our website. And we know the website is very popular. During 2020, we had over 535,000 page views for revaluation. And the Wake County Tax Administration's real estate search is the #1 hit website in the county. Everyone loves to look and see what the house down the street sold for, or what their neighbor bought their house for. But for revaluation, we have robust frequently asked questions. We have information about appeals. Revaluation statistics, that's a Power BI dashboard. You can go in and look at your town and see what is the property changes that happened. You can look at different towns and see, well, okay, well, what did Garner grow? What did Holly Springs grow? And you can drill down and look at those analytics. We have other things that are available. It's a comprehensive tool that we encourage everyone to go and look at. We also have what's called our comparable sales search. So this is pretty much like a Zillow or a Redfin. You can go to the website, wake.gov/revaluation, click comparable sales. That brings up this tool. You can put in your address and you can see what residential homes sold between 2021 and 2023. Those are indicators of market value. It's not the be-all, end-all how residential property assessed values were established, but homeowners can go in and see what homes sold in their neighborhood. Again, remember we talked about dividing those neighborhoods into those from 427,000 parcels into 5,100 neighborhoods. This tool allows you to see the home sales in your specific neighborhood that are indicators of market value. On the screen right now, you'll see the little red dots, My House, and you can see there's 3 homes that sold within that 2-year period. So I could see the real estate residential market activity that our appraisers looked at as they were doing their analysis for assessed values based off of market value. The other thing that we have and is again, we had this in 2020, it's back for 2024, is the revenue neutral tax calculator. Now, revenue neutral is a budget term. It means the revenue brought in by property taxes would be the same in a revaluation year as if revaluation hadn't occurred, adjusted for annual growth. It doesn't mean an individual property tax bill will not change. The revenue neutral rate is a county or town value as an average. It's not, again, property specific. For a homeowner, your value can increase higher or lower than your county or town average. But what the calculator can be used is to see if the revenue neutral rate is adopted, what is the impact in my change of assessed value to the amount of property tax amount I would pay on my bill if that revenue neutral rate is adopted. So it allows folks to go in and see property specific potential implications as a result of revaluation. We have a video about how to submit an appeal. Again, if you agree with your assessed value, you don't have to do anything. But we wanted to be clear and transparent about if you want to submit an appeal, how to do that. There's no cost to submit an appeal. They can be submitted online. They can be submitted by mail. This video walks you through the different ways to do that and the deadlines. Finally, I want to touch on property tax relief. Property tax relief is highlighted on the back of the brochure I talked about. And we know that there are residents in Wake County that are at need and that the market values have increased much higher, and they've lived here for a long time and they're seeing all of this market activity around them, and it's having an impact. We want to let folks know that there are 3 tax relief programs. These programs are established by the state of North Carolina, and Wake County cannot deviate from their requirements. We are creatures of the state. However, the Seniors and Disabled program is a program for 65 years of age and older, or anyone totally and permanently disabled. If your income in 2023, and its gross income, was $36,700 or less, you can receive a tax relief benefit of 50% off your home's value. So essentially you would get taxed at half of the value of your home. There's a tax deferment program. This is circuit breaker. And again, it targets those 65 years of age and older, or anyone permanently and total disabled. In this program, you have to own and occupied your home for the last 5 years. The income threshold's higher. The gross income requirement is $55,050 or less during 2023. And here your taxes are limited to 4% of your income, if your income is $36,700 or less, or your taxes are limited to 5% of your income if your gross income is between $36,700 and $55,050. The last 3 years of your taxes are deferred. So if there's a change that you're no longer living in the home is sold, you have to pay those 3 years of taxes. But during the time you're in it, you're not having to pay the full amount of taxes. Finally, there's a disabled veterans program. And veterans of any age with total and permanent disability that is service related can qualify. There's no income requirement for this, and your home value is reduced by $45,000. We encourage anyone with questions to go to wake.gov/tax relief, and we're happy to walk through all of these programs. I wanted to share the remaining revaluation schedule. So in January, we presented to the Board of Commissioners and we mailed the notices of assessed value. March 1st is the deadline for what we call an informal review. An informal review is where a home property owner sends information into our office and appraiser looks at it. And maybe we had wrong data. Maybe we had the wrong square footage for our house. Maybe there's other property characteristics. Maybe we listed a screen porch and they only have a deck. An appraiser will look at the information that the property owner submits and make a determination if a change in the assessed value is needed. And then we'll let the homeowner know. May 15th is the deadline for a formal appeal. A formal appeal is when a homeowner or a commercial property owner submits an appeal to the Board of Equalization and Review. The Board of Equalization and Review is a body appointed by the Board of Commissioners that hears appeals. They have hearings. And so homeowners can formally appeal to the Board of Equalization and Review, and then they will deem if a change in the assessed value is warranted. The deadline, again, is for all property owners to submit that by May 15th. And it's 11:59 local time. And aside, a couple years ago, we had a business in California that submitted something 11:59 West Coast time, which deemed it late East Coast time. So we've been clarifying that it's local time for these deadlines. Through the fall, our Board of Equalization and Review will be considering all timely filed formal appeals. Last thing I want to share with you is our customer service. We have dedicated appraisers staffing 919-857-3800. If anyone has a question about their assessed value, give a call. We have people who are trained, can get into the systems, can see the data. We have a dedicated revaluation email address. Again, staff appraisers are answering that. They have the expertise, they did the appraisals, they'll respond. Or you can come to our office in Wake County. I've left you business cards. On one side says general customer service. The other side says revaluation questions and appeals. If you have a constituent come up to you at a festival, or you're visiting somewhere and someone wants to talk about assessed value and starts getting into really detailed questions that you're like, whoa, I don't have that information, give them a card. There's that, Old American Express commercial, don't leave home without it. Don't leave home with these. Keep a couple in your pocket. Give it to the person who has questions. Have them call, encourage them to call. We'll be there. We want to demystify the process and we want to answer all questions. With that, I'm happy to answer questions you may have.
All right. A lot of information, good information, and I will be sure to give your cards out. Trust me on that. Anyone have any questions for?
I have a few questions. So thank you so much for coming to this presentation to us and to the town. This is obviously a very important subject. You know, I know it's a big cause of stress for a lot of people. So this presentation is great, especially the resources that you gave at the end. I did want to clarify a couple things. Well, one thing really, I mean, the appeals process, super important to people to look into. I've heard, and is it true, that if you appeal, your property value might go up? Is that true?
It's anything can happen.
Yes.
Something could be discovered. They're like, oh, well, that shouldn't be that. The fair market value is this.
Sure. That is a possibility.
It is a possibility, but everything's a possibility.
Sure. Well,
in life, right? Like, I don't want to discourage people from applying because they think we're going to automatically then increase.
Absolutely. But what I want to make a point to everyone is I don't want everyone to go hit the button right away, because some subset of people are going to find, oh, actually, we did make an error and it should be higher. So you want to look at your data first to see if you have like a reason to appeal, you know, some backing for your appeal. Don't just go hit the button because it could be bad. So that's important. I also found it fascinating about the appeals process. There's two different kinds of appeals. You have your informal appeal, and do you do both?
Yes.
So do you suggest people go do both, or do one, if that doesn't work, do the other, that kind of thing?
It's the discretion of the property owner.
Okay.
But if they want to get it knocked out and not have it linger, nor have to have a formal appointment in front of the Board of Equalization and Review, which they don't have to go to, but they can if they want to. A good way is to start with an informal review. You don't have to. And then if you don't like what the staff appraiser decides, you can then appeal to the Board of Equalization and Review.
But they're two like separate processes. I guess you can do one or both.
You can do both.
Yeah.
You can do only the informal review, or you can wait and you can do the formal review.
Okay. Thank you. So my other question was about the revenue neutral tax rate calculator you have on your website. That doesn't include Apex on there.
That is correct. We reached out and towns said if they wanted to participate or not. So if you live in Apex, it has the county rate only.
Yes. So we could participate if we give you data or something. Our staff has to. Okay. I'll follow up and see what's going on there.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I do have a question too. So you talked about the neighborhooding and like the individual property data that you're used. Just looking at the heat map that you showed, actually I got a slightly more granular version here. How come there's neighborhoods that are kind of all in the same, band of increase, but then you have, individual properties kind of sprinkled throughout the neighborhood that have a much higher increase in their appraised value than the rest of the neighborhood? Like, what kind of sets individual properties apart from the rest of the neighborhood?
Without looking at the specific data, I don't want to go too far off a ledge, but it may be that they have a much bigger square footage or they have a different property characteristic than the rest of the homes in that neighborhood. Again, we would need to see properties, assessed values are property specific. I think I know what heat map or data set you're looking at, where we gave you the heat map and then it's broken down by individual parcels. So if someone got information that was, oh, that's a little interesting, I would encourage, reach out to our office, talk to an appraiser, see what information we have that led to that conclusion.
Just as a follow-up to that question before we move on, like, is this the process where stuff like people getting a permit for a new deck or an addition would roll up into your new property value? So that could be why some parcels are a higher increase, is maybe they did a renovation or something.
So mine was, by the way, quite a bit higher, and it's on the map. It shows it pretty well. And I think it's the land. The land value went way up for my house, like by a lot, and much more than the building did. So, and I've noticed the land, large parcels went up higher than smaller ones, it seems like. So the land value must have gone up more than the building in many cases.
During this revaluation, we had a targeted approach and analysis on land values. So for 2020, package sales met market value, but maybe homes were a little high and land was a little low. We rebalanced it this time. So land reaches market value, building reaches market value, package sale equals market value.
It's also quite noticeable that older areas of town seem to have appreciated much more than newer built areas, which seems a little bit lopsided, right? Because the newer homes tend to be larger, have more of the amenities, yet the disproportionate impact of, especially with the tax neutral rate, but the higher values or the higher increase in values of older neighborhoods, is going to disproportionately affect those people living in older neighborhoods. Is that a common trend throughout all of Wake County, or are we seeing that specifically here in Apex?
I don't want to answer as a whole because I don't have older neighborhoods vis-a-vis all the different towns in front of me, so I don't want to mislead that answer. I will say for this project, we did a targeted effort at looking what we called legacy homes. These are homes that were built before 2000, I'm sorry, not 2000, 1980s. And they looked at homeowners who had lived there 20, 30 years. So they hadn't had a building permit taken out. They hadn't had a change in home ownership. They've just lived versus a home that could have been flipped. And what we did was, if we saw that there were homes that possibly had permits, had different market transactions, those were assessed at a different factor than the homes where someone may have lived in them for 20, 30 years, because there's no building permit taken out. There's an assumption that there hasn't possibly been as many modernizations that have happened to that house. Different neighborhoods have different life cycles, and what we are seeing that neighborhoods that were maybe not have as much market activity or an increase in values, they become desirable once again, and then that increases sales in there, and then they become attractive and values increase.
Right. And I'm particularly stuck on one neighborhood, and I know you don't know the Apex neighborhoods, and so it's not entirely fair to ask you this question, but the Justice Heights neighborhood really stands out to me because of the high degree of reval in that area, which we know is a poorer area of town, and so like some of the things that you just mentioned in terms of being people living there for extended period of times, properties that are less updated. I think that's that's kind of your typical sample there. Yet we're seeing properties being reevaluated at 90+% compared to 4 years ago, right? So like something just doesn't seem to add water.
I would encourage any homeowner living in there, give us a call.
Okay.
If there's data that does, we are completely willing to look at the information, and if something needs adjusted because it doesn't reflect fair market value, we can look at it. We need to, again, our appraisers looked at market sales to set value. And then for those who had lived in those homes for a while, we put on a maintenance code. Basically, we did an adjustment downward so they wouldn't have as much of an increase.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Because we wanted to address those homeowners who were being impacted by increase in market activity by other sales. And they're just living in their home and they've been there for years.
I would argue that Apex is so new that any of the older neighborhoods are very close to downtown, and therefore the desirability of those neighborhoods has gone up over time, especially recently. That's what I've observed. I want to ask about land versus building tax rates. I know in North Carolina they have to be the same, but I think there'd be better outcomes in Wake County if they were allowed to be different. And I'm not sure if we all agree collectively, but I think the county commissioners would benefit from talking about putting that on their legislative agenda, that a differential tax rate for land and buildings might benefit everyone. In theory, would lower the building rate and raise the land rate would be usually the direction it goes. Other states do that, and I think it's had good outcomes in other states.
So I can't speak for my commissioners and their legislative agenda. I can share that Article 5, Section 2 of the North Carolina Constitution has a uniformity clause, and that's where local governments have to apply the same tax rates to land and buildings, as well as we have to follow the same rules for exclusions and exemptions. So, and even tax relief, all 100 counties have to do the same. And so when you talk about items like that, you're going to get pointed towards the Constitution, and that might be a pretty uphill battle for a legislative agenda.
Maybe. I mean, I think it would benefit many counties across the state, not just Wake County. So it might be appealing for a majority.
Like if land values are assessed higher, wouldn't that harm people who are living in older homes which have bigger lots and smaller houses? So the land would be taxed higher.
It would encourage development. Usually it's been done to encourage development, especially in, I would argue, there are parts of Apex that the land is sitting there, especially near downtown, that would benefit from development, and it would be an incentive to that, to develop
Sure,
those.
but that wouldn't help people. Like that would encourage development, which could help. Like I think really what we need, as long as we're like throwing ideas out there, I got a couple. I really think a more comprehensive list of tax relief programs would be helpful, and for the limits that are on the tax relief programs are extraordinarily low, to the point where not a ton of people qualify for them. I think just revisiting those numbers and raising them a little bit and expanding the amount and kind of tax relief program, tax abatement programs that we have, or that the county has or the state has, I think would be probably the best way to go to spread out the burden more equally.
Maybe a progressive tax rate would be good too, to add that list.
What now?
A progressive tax rate for property tax.
Yeah, I think that's even less likely to happen.
I know, yeah.
Stuff,
I
but
think she may have some.
But that's good to call out though, right? Like, just like the uniformity across all the counties, right? We need by law to apply the same tax rate to every property in the town of Apex. So as much as we would like to give some people a break, like we can't, right? And so that, just want to clarify that for
Did you have something to add?
the town.
I was just going to say, last week, we pushed out tax relief information to all of the towns, as well as close to 200 partners. So all the senior centers, churches, community organizations, advocates. We actually last year, a group of administrators from all the urban counties worked to try to get a bill introduced to change how tax relief would be done and tie it to a percent of using HUD's index for low and moderate housing, or low and moderate income housing. And the bill drafting it at the General Assembly came back with the uniformity clause and said because it was based off of a percentage of AMI and not the same for all 100 counties, that they couldn't, it would violate the uniformity clause. So it was on the agenda, it was tried, and we got back uniformity clause.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that information helps or not, but we're sharing, and we look for any ideas else how we can share the programs. We're a creature of the state of North Carolina, and we have been told to stick with being a creature of the state of North Carolina.
I've had that conversation before.
All right, any other questions?
I have some final comments that weren't really a question that I want to make sure people understand. Some things that you hit and some things that I want to stress as well, Mayor.
Go for it.
So I guess there's really three things that I think I hope people take away from this that we've talked about a little bit. The first is that the change in your home value, what matters most isn't what your number is, it's what your relative value is to your neighbors and to the rest of Apex. So if your home value went up 50%, that's really scary, but if everyone else's went up 60%, that actually your tax bill is probably going to go down. So it's that relative change that matters. And we saw the data earlier, the average change here, I think you said 56% was the average. So that's kind of the pivot point. And that speaks to sort of that revenue neutral thing you mentioned. Our tax rate, we don't know the number yet, but it's going to go down dramatically to compensate for our dramatically higher values. So what matters to you and what matters to your tax bill is going to be your relative change compared to everyone else. It does, if your tax rate went up, if your tax value went up 50%, your tax bill is not going to go up 50%. Guarantee it. It'll be something, you know, it might even go down at 50%. If your home value went up 100%, it's probably going to go up, but it's not going to double. It'll be something less than that based on the relative change. That's a really big takeaway that people have to, I hope we can get the message out for that, because it's causing a lot of alarm, because these are really big numbers. The other two things I just wanted to stress are, again, the appeals process, that you do have a limited amount of time if you feel an error is made to appeal to the county informally or formally to get your tax rate or your tax value adjusted. These tax values, you sort of have to do a calculation as for how much it'll cost you in time and effort and what you think is to be gained, if that makes sense, because this tax rate is for the next 4 years. And you may have to get an appraisal, you know, you may have to, like I warned earlier, I'm worried about people appealing, getting a higher value. That would not be great. So having some basis is ideal. And the last thing is just all the resources we talked about for tax relief and tax abatement. We all wish they were better, but we do need people to use the resources available. If you know, you're 65 or older, if there's a disability, you know, disabled veterans also have a relief program. If you qualify for those, take a look and please take advantage of them. One other point that's been bugging me about this, residential values went up higher than commercial values did, which is the opposite of what happened in 2020. And the net result of that mathematically is it shifts the tax burden slightly from our commercial properties to our residential properties. More residential properties are going to have their tax bills go up than commercial properties. And that's not great. That's not what we want to see. And there's nothing we can do about that directly as a council, because it's a uniform tax rate and all the stuff we just said. But in terms of land use policy, like that really speaks to the need for us to focus on more commercial development, because that will then shift the tax burden on those commercial properties. They tend to be worth more. And this is a good example as to why that's important. So that's what I have. Thanks.
We have been, I would say, in the last few years. We've probably done more commercial than residential.
Yeah, but we're still 83% residential, not 17%.
I bet you in 2028 it'll be a little different because of the things we're doing the last couple of years, if I had to guess.
Okay.
We'll see.
Thank you so much for coming. All right. All right, good discussion. Let's move to setting the regular meeting agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Motion Zigerman.
Second.
Second Killingsworth. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously. We have a set meeting agenda. We'll now move to public forum. I'd like to hear from the community. Come and present. Please watch your time. And we'll go ahead and get kicked off. Beth Bland. If you would, say your name and address as well for the record. Thank you.
Beth Bushman Bland, 3724 Friendship Road. So tonight, this is basically just for you, Mayor Gilbert. I got this in the mail. I don't know if you've all seen this. It is a great article about the mayor.
I promise you I didn't pay her to do that.
He didn't. I wanted to congratulate you being featured in the Cap Trust magazine Vested. My family has known you for a very long time, and I enjoyed reading the article and learning even more about you and your family. I have personally experienced how you truly care about the people you know and serve. So it's been 13 years now, but I have never forgotten your kindness the day I told you about my late husband passing. You're a man of great integrity and sincerity. I can't imagine the number of hats you wear in your job or all the different agendas that cross your desk. And I'm going to segue just a little bit. So for those of us being affected by the Big Branch force main, we have appreciated your listening and encouragement in our effort to move it to the south side of US 1. Some of your advice in the article was to show up. So I have never been to a town council meeting before until about 18 months ago. I have learned a lot and I will keep showing up. Another advice was to speak up. The Big Branch force main, to myself, to Tom, and many of our neighbors, needs to be moved, and there is a solution out there. So I appreciate being able to be heard, and I appreciate you and the work that you do. Thank you.
Don Catalino.
Dawn Casalino, 3632 Bosco Road. Good evening. Well, I wish this was a two-way forum where we can exchange ideas. I can only ask you to listen. What I'm going to be mentioning tonight about Apex is not directed towards the mayor. It's directed to the town council and the staff. Apex has lost the people's trust. It's due to numerous reasons. For example, not sharing information to the community, downplaying casually the effects of eminent domain, quietly working behind the scenes, communicating to state officials and developers. Apex knew exactly what they were doing. They simply took a Sharpie to southwestern Wake County. We're talking about Little Beaver Conservation Easement. We're talking about extension of Richardson Road. We're talking about the western Big Branch force main. Even when the community provided other opportunities to course correct, Apex authoritarian culture could not adapt. The train left the station, it's hurling down the tracks. So I've quoted from the movie The Terminator, the government machine can't be bargained with, can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop. Apex has also demonstrated that it does not care about our community. Apex wants us to believe there's only one way, and that they must take properties, I should say, in the name of eminent domain. When Apex fights for the benefits of citizens first and foremost, not developers, there are always other ways working with the community for meaningful outcomes. Otherwise, all Apex is doing is weaponizing eminent domain to control and to conceal outright stealing of properties. Thank you.
Elizabeth Stitt.
Elizabeth Stitt, 3113 Friendship Road. Mayor, you may recognize my handwriting for all three speakers tonight because there was a major 3-car accident at Old US 1 and Friendship Road, and I got out before the accident happened, so I signed them up. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my tax value. My property, one of my property, my main property, went up 84%. I have a smaller piece that went up over 100%. And it does not actually encourage development. I think it makes it harder for development because for a developer to come buy out my property, they're going to have to pay me a lot more. And what they can build on my property has to have a greater TCO in order to make the project work. So if my value has gone up a lot, people aren't going to be able to buy it, but I'm going to be able to go get loans against it and tap into my equity, found equity, just because the tax rate went up, and I can go buy my neighbor's properties, and I can go buy other properties. It helps me become more wealthy and tap into other properties that other people who may not be able to continue to afford, sell out. So the increasing land value is a benefit to those of us that have the land. It's not good for the community. It's not good for development, so I wanted to give that counterpoint because I was listening to the conversation and saying, we have a real problem with affordable housing, and these values going up does not help that problem at all. And those of us that are still here, very few of us are going to leave anytime soon because it is, our forever homes. And where can we go in Wake County and be this close to an airport, this close to hospitals, this close to shopping, this close to food, this close to roads? We have more connectivity out in the Friendship area than anywhere else. If you look in Wake County, the number of points that we have to 540, to US 1, to 64, to 55, we have been made a unicorn based on what one of my neighbors have told me. So, when we come up here and say, hey, we want to have a say in our community, we want to have a say because we're not going anywhere. And I had to walk out of the town council meeting last meeting because I was so offended, because what I realized was we do care more about protecting our trees, protecting our water, protecting conservation easements, things that are supposed to be protected. We're the ones that are living and breathing that protection. And there was no opportunity to really have a dialogue about the Little Beaver Creek conservation easement the way it was put up. So I can tell you what I do know is decisions can change, rezonings can change, and we can have some discussions and have a better outcome. So I just ask that you consider having some more dialogue with us. Thank you.
Phil Welch.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Phil Welch. I live at 1471 Big Leaf Loop in Apex. I'm an advocate for housing choices for all of our residents and workers here. I want to speak to you about a case for protecting our hardworking neighbors. I'm referring to an older neighborhood in Apex where homes sprung up in the late 80s. The development was originally envisioned as a place where working class families could own modest, affordable homes. Over the ensuing 40 years, the neighborhood has changed dramatically along with the surrounding community. Initially, this neighborhood served as a launch pad for younger families. They were able to save their money and move to larger homes as their families grew. However, as their housing expenses increased and reasonably priced middle market homes became scarce, there were far fewer families that could save and move on. Also, as the homes aged and families struggled to maintain them, the neighborhood became less desirable except for the prices, which up until recently continued to be reasonable. Now, as with so many older neighborhoods in Apex, this neighborhood of about 100 affordable homes is seriously threatened by rising land values and potential redevelopment. This would displace families which have lived there for 10 years or more. Unfortunately, the land there is now worth more than the homes, which is a recipe for irresistible property sales, out-migration of lower-income families, wholesale redevelopment, and in-migration of higher-income households, also known as gentrification. The possible removal of these longtime residents would also be diametrically opposed to the vision in Apex's affordable housing plan, which was that Apex welcomes people of diverse backgrounds and supports opportunities for affordable, safe, sanitary, and quality housing that meets the needs of people of all incomes, ages, and abilities. With that vision in mind, we need to explore all possible ways to preserve the affordable homes and neighborhoods of these hardworking families. Losing these homes would mean a displacement of families with deep roots in the community, including their jobs, their children's schools, their extended families, and their faith communities. If this was a neighborhood of working-class white families, these individuals would be showing up to protest at council meetings, taking to social media to state their case, and organizing rallies and marches. However, this is a marginalized community of people of color, including undocumented adults, who are fearful of the publicity, discrimination, and retaliation that would threaten their families, almost as much as their relocation to other counties or states. I'm referring to one of Apex's 3 manufactured home communities. I beg you to join me and other advocates, some of whom are here with me tonight, in exploring creative ways to protect these beloved neighbors from threatened displacements from their homes and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Zoe Wampler.
Hello, Zoe Wampler, 1011 Tender Drive. My name is Zoe. I'm a Jewish resident of Apex and a member of the Triangle, North Carolina chapter of Jewish Voice for Peace. I'm here today to draw attention to a safety issue for our residents. As you may already be aware, the current Israeli war on Gaza has been characterized as genocide, not to be used lightly by the US-based Center for Constitutional Rights. The war has also led to a dramatic increase in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism here in the US, with the most recent incident taking place in Austin, Texas, where a group of Muslim Americans were violently attacked in a suspected hate crime. Last week, I sent an email to each of you asking that you sign on to a letter co-drafted by Jewish Voice for Peace, Muslim Women For, and NC General Assembly Representatives Harrison, Price, and Servania. This letter calls on the Biden administration and the NC congressional delegation to take the following actions. Number 1, support the Ceasefire Now resolution currently in the U.S. House of Representatives and introduce a companion resolution in the Senate. Number 2, urge the Biden administration to continue to work for the diplomatic release of all hostages, both those held by Hamas and the Palestinians detained by the Israeli government and military. And number 3, urge the U.S. Department of State and Homeland Security to extend temporary protected status and authorize deferred and forced departure to Palestinian families currently residing in the United States, so as to offer them the much-needed protection and stability they need in this time. I want to thank Council Members Killingsworth and Ziegerman, who have already courageously signed on to this letter, and I urge the rest of the Council to join them. According to the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights, every year North Carolina residents contribute over $90 million in federal tax dollars toward the U.S. funding of the Israeli military, which totals $3.8 billion annually. Apex residents account for just under $750,000 of that sum. It is the responsibility of local elected officials such as yourselves to ensure that our taxpayer money is used for the betterment and safety of the people you serve and not for supporting genocidal wars. I urge the Council to follow in the footsteps of our fellow North Carolinians on the Carrboro Town Council and put forth a ceasefire resolution against the ongoing Israeli attack on Gaza. These symbolic measures represent the will of the people, as well as put pressure on our Congress members, such as Representative Wiley Nickel, who have yet to sign on to such resolutions. Jewish and Palestinian safety are thoroughly intertwined, and a permanent ceasefire is the only way to achieve safety for all, both those living on the land of Israel-Palestine and members of the Jewish and Palestinian diaspora living here in North Carolina. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And thank you to all who came out to speak tonight and showing up. So we'll go ahead and close public forum for comment. We'll move now to public hearings. And we have the first public hearing, Unified Development Ordinance, UDO amendments, presented tonight by Amanda Bunce, current planning manager.
Good evening. So originally there were 3 items in your for this public hearing item. Item number 2 has been withdrawn by staff. And the reason for that is because the Rules Committee of the Building Code Council has referred amendments to the Fire Code to the Legislative Committee. They have not adopted updates to the Fire Code. And the way we drafted the UDO amendment was to rely generally on the Fire Code. So we'll be withdrawing that for now and at this time, and you may see some further changes in the future.
Okay.
So for the 2 items that are left, Amendment 1 is to the definition section to expand the boundaries of the Downtown Festival District. As you may recall, back in May of 2022, the district was created in order to allow more flexibility in the number of promotional events allowed downtown and to reduce the setback required for outdoor operations areas for certain uses. And this is a map. The blue area, this north is to your right. The blue area represents the current boundaries of the Downtown Festival District, and the proposal is to expand it into the pink-purple areas, generally south of William Street along South Salem Street, and also along south of East Chatham down to Moore Street in this area. Discussion of this expansion came up in October of last year when the facade improvement grant was expanded to include the Downtown Festival District in addition to the Central Business District. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on that item.
No questions, just a comment. Thank you for making that adjustment. It's really appreciated.
And the last amendment is to the table of uses permitted within a riparian buffer in order to clarify that screen porches are allowed to encroach into a riparian buffer in the same manner as sheds and gazebos. And this is based on an interpretation from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. They treat screen porches the same. And so we're reflecting that in our ordinance. The Planning Board heard these amendments at their December 11th meeting and unanimously recommended approval, and planning staff recommends approval as well. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fox? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for comment. No one has signed up to speak. We'll close it, and it's back for discussion, leading to a possible motion.
Motion to approve amendments 1 and 3.
Okay.
I'll second
motion and second. All right, any discussion?
I do want to say, I'm a little disappointed that amendment 2 got pulled because I was ready to rail against it for like a half an hour. I've been stewing about it all weekend, and I was just ready to go. I was thinking about it, and you guys pulled the football away from me at the last second. So I'll save my comments another time. I think it's bad. Please don't ever bring it back.
All right. It'll be 45-minute speech next time instead of 30.
Yeah.
But you got more time now.
There you go.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Ms. Fox. All right, this is one you may want to comment about. This is one that you initiated. Old Business 1, Ordinance Amendment, Chapter 5, Article 1, Section 5, Automatic Fire Sprinkler System Requirements. I know this is, we discussed this and we decided collectively to put it under old business. After the first vote, Alan, what was the date of that vote?
In the original November 14th, I believe.
Yeah. So it did pass 3-2, I believe. So it comes back for a second reading. I think I voiced this during the first meeting. I was really concerned that there was not enough public input for this, and also different staff members didn't have an opportunity to weigh in because there are different interests with regard to these possible changes. So this is where we are, and this is opportunity for each council member to present to staff, give the staff direction to bring this back at a scheduled date to be determined. So what I would like to do is open up discussion. Well, we'll hold off on discussion. I want each council member in direction to staff to give them information, what direction you wanted them to go in as far as what you like to see in this staff report when it's brought back to council. And then some other recommendations. So I will turn it over to you, Councilmember Mahaffey, since this is your item. And then we'll go through the list of council members. And
Mayor, before he goes, can you clarify, are you soliciting questions that we have or people that we'd like to be involved?
I think it's all of the above. So I think it's really adding any information that gives clarity to interim manager Purvis as far as getting this report back to staff. I mean, from staff to council before we make a decision.
Thank you.
So that's where we are. Anything you want to clarify?
No, sir. I think the biggest thing we're looking for is just what type of information you would like to see or know. So, because there's a lot of different avenues, a lot of different to explore, a lot of different perspectives, and so making sure before we send staff down different roads, that way we'll cover it. What I would expect is what you would have from staff is a report that addresses neutrally everything that, hey, here's the considerations to have.
Right.
That would be the next step in terms of staff. Then that would be for you to consider and potentially ask questions of. I know you also mentioned the public, and the best place for that may be a public hearing once that report's there and for that consideration. But that's all where we are.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mahaffey.
So I'm a little surprised that we're here in February talking about this, because I thought we had given direction back in November, and I thought what was going to happen was that we would each individually tell staff what type of information we wanted to have researched, and they would prepare a report, and then we'd set a public hearing, which we'd committed to, and then vote on it. So to that end, I thought that was still the plan. It sounds like it's something like that. It still is the plan. In terms of what information I'd like to see, I sent the town manager an email after the last meeting with what content I thought was relevant to the discussion. These type of ordinances have been enacted around the country in a couple states and in dozens of different towns. Tons of research has been done about these ordinances and the impact of them. I thought that aggregating that information first and foremost would be relevant to the discussion. I was under the impression that other members were doing the same thing or having this conversation, and then together you'd have a body of what 6 people want to see, and we could do it and set the meeting. But I don't really have anything to add beyond that. I do think that we should move quickly to dispose of it. I don't want this to hang around for another year. Let's get the information we want and then have the public hearing and come to a decision. Would be my preference.
Respectfully, I think the reason that I wanted to have it this way is for transparency. So everyone can have a discussion. It's in front of everyone. I don't see your emails. So I think it's good to just have a healthy discussion. And I think going forward, I would even like to see a work session, because I think we can have a dialogue with staff. So that's just my thoughts, and I'll get to that later. But that's the reason why we're here. I want to encourage that we have people that are really impacted by this in our community. So it's important for them to hear this discussion.
I'm trying to find the email so I can just read it as to what content I had.
All right, I'll give you a second. Councilman Zigerman.
That's what I'd like to see included in the analysis that Councilmember Mahaffey just asked for, is a summary of changes to building and fire code over the last, let's say, 4 years, of how building codes and fire codes have changed to the good or to the bad, and give that as context for why we believe sprinklers is a reasonable ordinance to add to our UDL.
Are you referring to single-family and townhome changes?
Single-family
specifically?
townhome, because apartments already do require sprinklers, but townhomes used to require sprinklers. That's one of the things I think have been taken away. So that's I want to kind of see the progression over time, right? What kind of building materials are now allowed that were not allowed, right? And then what's their impact on the fire safety of the structure? And I'm mostly concerned about townhomes, because they're abutting. I'm also concerned about single-family residences since the lot offsets have decreased significantly. So these houses are closer together, right? So there's less separation to contain a fire if that comes out. So I'd like to see something, some analysis around what the recent developments in North Carolina in particular regarding the building and fire safety codes, like how does that change the building industry? And so that we have a little bit more context as to the need for these sprinkler systems.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask would you prefer to have a work session, or would you prefer to just have a public hearing once we receive the stuff?
I would prefer just to have a public hearing. Now, if there's more to say than the staff can contain in the staff report, then I'm open to the idea of having a work session. But the staff report is basically a readout from staff to us. So unless staff specifically requests a work session, I'm fine with just having a public hearing.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
I would like some clarifying information in the areas where this has been implemented, where sprinklers have been implemented as mandatory or mostly mandatory. If there is a change in insurance coverage. So someone brought to my attention, and this is not in a required area, but basically with water damage occurring, they were dropped from their homeowner's insurance and they could not find coverage. So I would like to know how this is handled in areas where if sprinklers do go off, are they able to find homeowners coverage? Are they able to be covered still with this type of situation? The other thing I would like to know as well, and this statement was brought up, and I cannot remember who said it, but the materials that our houses are made out of, especially because some of them are built closer together than others, like the flammability of those materials now versus a decade ago.
That's kind of what I would like to see included, and just to okay, so if we're removing fire prevention on one side, right, is there something to offset that increased risk, right, in terms of firewalls or things like that, right? So like how kind of the combination of changes in building code and allowable materials, plus any type of mitigating factors kind of affects the safety of new build structures.
Okay.
I would say also like the changes in property damage. So if you do have a sprinkler going off versus a house that doesn't have sprinklers going off to protect it, what cost estimate change are we talking about here? Are we talking about total loss of house? Are we talking about, and obviously that depends on how quickly the fire department can get there to help out as a major piece of that. But I would like to know more information about that.
In North Carolina or Wake County or Apex?
I would like to know locally if we have those numbers, but some places that are comparable as well.
Anything else, Councilwoman Killingworth?
So I would definitely like to have some input from the public, but I prefer that to be in the form of a work session. And we've had work sessions in the past where we do have people that are able to give public input as well. So it would be something to consider there, where we would not be expected to make a decision, but we'd have plenty of discussion and plenty of public input if desire.
That's separate from the public hearing?
Yes.
How would it differ from a public hearing?
So we would not be in a council session officially here on the dais for that.
Okay.
It would just be a time to gather information.
Yeah. All right, anything else? Okay, thank you.
I have nothing else to add. No.
A couple things I'm interested in. One is, I think in a discussion about the setbacks, and I'm interested in like many, besides the setbacks, but like cul-de-sac links and what planning changes would be, could benefit from this, from the sprinklers being in the houses as far as the safety perspective goes. That's one thing. Like would planning and or public safety staff recommend any changes to our ordinances that would go along with it? And the main thing is just, I'd love to get a cost estimate per square foot that's like from Apex or from Wake County or from North Carolina, not a national group. Real life, what's been in the last few years, the actual cost.
Of the sprinkler system?
Yeah. Or comparable community in a different state if you can't find North Carolina. It's gonna be a long report.
Rightfully so. Is that all you have, sir?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I think.
And then work session is my preference to get a better deep dive into it.
More work session. Okay.
Sean, is there anything you need clarifying information on with all of that?
I don't think so. I think, I mean, I'm trying to get as many notes, and I have some clarifying notes to myself on here based on kind of context. So I think I've got what I need. Just get with staff, and we'll talk about the time needed to do some of the research. Some will be easy, some will be a little more difficult or time consuming to get together. So, but we'll,
do we all agree on these requests to try to, if we can be Apex specific, to have it be that way? And if it's within the last 2 years, that's preferable as well, like to get a kind of a best estimate of these things?
Not really. I mean, like sprinkler information in Apex in the past 2 years, there've been none for residential like that. It's not.
Or Wake County? I mean, I just.
So like, I mean, we're all people. We all build homes out of wood. Like, I think the data about how it behaves on homes is applicable across the country. It's not like it has to be specifically here. And the issue is amount of data that you're requesting in the locality here. Like, if it's not required here, how is it, like, how can we possibly gather? It's not, you know.
I see these national estimates. I just don't know if that's how that would translate to here very well. And like we have hardy plank on all of our houses. I don't know if places that have vinyl siding more commonly done, that I think is more flammable than hardy plank is by maybe a long shot. So like, because that's not been a zoning, it's not a UDO requirement, so often in our zonings, most houses are doing that now.
Sure. I understand your point. You make a good point. I'll just add, fire safety of homes, of structures, been heavily studied by every community in every country, in every county for the past 4,000 years. It's not exactly a novel topic, but we understand this stuff to a certain degree. The data, it's not like it's some esoteric, strange thing we're asking to look at. Like we've been looking at how to build homes and improve the fire safety for the entire duration of our history. It's, so I guess I'm just pleading that like data from other places is okay because they also live in homes like us. And it's more available in other places because other places have done this before, whereas we haven't.
Yeah. I mean, the cost one is my main thing is like, what it cost in Sampson County versus here. I think the homes are substantially more expensive here. I don't know if that translates to more expensive sprinkler systems or not, but or other counties that are a little further away from the triangle. So,
no, I agree. I think that is the big question, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to be the one installing them, so I can't guarantee what the cost is because I'm not the one charging for it. It's going to be whatever, get a contractor or a plumber to pay for it. So.
Certainly, Wake County, there's been some, I would think.
Probably.
I have a few more things to add. So I would like to see staff gather stakeholder input from various sources including general citizen input, the home building industry, remodelers, affordable housing advocates. And also, I would like to see it vetted by the Housing Advisory Board.
Man, the only thing I would ask on that is, you're talking about I've heard public hearing, I've heard work session with public, which has been done, but is not always. I mean, and now we're talking about.
I guess what I'm trying to say is
I'm trying to figure out what the best venue for that is, and that's
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if that could be at the work session. I'm just saying I want to make sure we gather input from stakeholders and have a structured way of doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you'll allow me to just kind of think through what, and I could speak with you then about what the way to get that input may be.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. And I think the Housing Advisory Board would be part of the stakeholder group, would be a stakeholder in that.
So we talked about a cost analysis, right? So we got that taken care of. The other thing that I'm really concerned about is if we have a public hearing, and maybe by the time we do a work session and we get stakeholder input, we have everything we need. But oftentimes with a public hearing, we do hear from the public and they may present something that we didn't account for. So voting on the same night on something like this could be problematic. I think we do that for the budget.
So if we do a work session though, and then a public hearing, that will cover it?
I would hope.
Do we need public hearing if we do the work session? Do we have to do a public hearing again?
So the whole idea of having the public hearing is to get input from
That's correct.
the residents and any other stakeholders at that point. My idea there at the work session is that we don't vote on it during that meeting, that we gather the information we've got, and then the next meeting, then we'll have our vote.
So you think we have enough by then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want some dates?
Well,
Sure.
staff needs to be able to
I guess
gather
they need to
stuff,
figure this
so-
out. Y'all gotta do the work.
Sean, I don't know if this is helpful, but I mean, obviously, once you all make action, it would go to the Building Code Council, right? And so we've already missed the deadline for the March Building Code Council, and it doesn't sound like we may meet the June deadline. So the next Building Code Council meeting would be September 9th. So obviously you'd back up from there, but I don't know if that's helpful.
What is the June deadline?
It's normally the first day of the month prior. So September 9th's meeting would be due August 1st, which would mean you all would need to probably vote on it sometime in June because you don't meet in July.
June would be finalizing the budget.
I think
I don't know if that gives enough time, but
yeah, I mean, it's a healthy workload, so I think it'll push it back.
Sorry, I'm looking at the calendar real quick. June 18th work session.
You said June 18th for a work session?
Well, I'm trying to calculate everything in, and that still meets the deadline. I am looking at you, Mr. Mahaffey, because I know you have concerns on the calendar time and bringing it up.
But June 18 would be a little bit late, right? Because there's only one council meeting after that. So because since we're not meeting in July, we would need to vote in June.
I'm concerned with overlapping the budget schedule, and like, when's the busiest time for you for developing a budget? Are you worried about getting ready for this in early June, or are you worried more if it was in May that would be more difficult for
I think it would be more difficult in May. Hopefully by the end of May we're pretty much wrapped up. I mean, it depends on some of that depends on y'all, but I mean, our budget calendar. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Pull the budget calendar. Make sure I don't tell you anything wrong. Let's see. The public hearing is May 21st, and so the follow-up budget workshop, if needed, sometimes we don't need that, depends on if there's any potential changes, is May 23rd. So, I mean, we're hoping to have the budget adopted June 11th, barring any other changes. So May's the heavier month on that. June's not the not as heavy as long as something, crazy doesn't happen, or there's a significant change that council decides to ask for after we've crafted everything. So anyway, that's why, so yeah, May's heavier than June on that. I'm trying to be respectful of the time, and if September 1st, which means, Alan, you said August 1st is the deadline for that. So,
well, my concern is not the Building Code Council. My concern is about how this impacts the residents of Apex and all the stakeholders here. That's what I'm concerned about.
So June work session, and then if we're going to proceed, the second meeting in June, vote.
Public hearing.
Yeah. Right?
Well, that's
It'll be
that's
fresh.
kind of what I was recommending. But Mr. Zegerman, you had concerns that.
So I'm just, because there's very short amount of time between the work session and the public hearing. I would like to, but I understand, there's only so much we can do at any given time. So I'm fine with that as a tentative plan. If we don't make it, maybe we do a special session in July.
The other option is you can always call a special meeting just to approve it if necessary, if you didn't have that.
Okay.
So
everybody good with that?
So June 18th is our target work session date. That's what I'm hearing. So.
All right, well done.
With the public hearing on June 25th?
Tentatively, so.
That makes sense.
Everybody's in agreement?
Yeah.
Good.
All right, thanks everyone. All right, we'll move now. Any other input? Mr. Purvis, you have everything you need?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. It's back on you, sir. Updates.
1 second, let me get sure I write this down. All right. Just a few quick updates. I had this whole thing about all our Black History Month honoring program, and y'all already announced all of it. What I'll highlight again is, we do have events, and there's a month-long exhibition at the Halley, so I just encourage people to participate in that and view that. But I do want to reiterate the Counter History Ice Cream Social event this Thursday. It's more details. It's 7 to 9 at the Halley. There's 2 programs associated. Both of them have been recognized. Documenting History in the South, the Counter History Royal Ice Cream Sit-In, and the virtual MLK project. So we do encourage people to participate in that. There'll be great programs. So that's this Thursday at 7 o'clock. Coming up, Think Apex nominations are actually open right now through the end of the month. So Think Apex is a great event for us. The town recognizes businesses, individuals, nonprofits for their dedication and service to others in Apex. It culminates in a day of service in April. That'll be April 27th this year. So that, again, those nominations are open. You can fill those out on our website through the end of this month. If you have any questions on that, Barbara Ballistic in our economic development team at the depot is the contact for that. Wake Up and Read, which Mr. Mahaffey got us connected with this year again, is that drive finishes this week. As a month long, we've collected about 500 books so far at our different sites around town. So for those that are still interested in donating, those drop boxes are at all our facilities here on Town Hall campus, but also at the Halley. There's a few park spaces at some of the elementary schools that have drop boxes, and there's even some private businesses that are dropping. So it's been a successful event, I'm sure countywide, but even in Apex. Continuing on, Restaurant Week is on, I'll go ahead and mention that, February 26th through March 3rd, in support of some of our small businesses and restaurants. So I think we have over 16 participating this year. So there's different menu options and trying to and promotion items to encourage our folks to visit our local restaurants. And Colleen Murray is our small business manager, is our contact for that if there's any questions at the depot. And lastly, looking forward to, we have a full week this week between today and all day Thursday and all day Friday, with a retreat on Thursday, and that retreat extending into Friday, which we have some decision points in our capital improvement workshop. So lots going on, and looking forward to it.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Purvis? Thanks for the update.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll move now into closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session on 3 items?
Yep, so moved.
All right.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously. Moving to closed session. We live?
I was wondering, you only had one. I was like,
Is there a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Second. All right, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're out of closed session, open session. Is there a motion to go into closed session for personnel matter?
So moved.
Second. All right, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
or no?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. All righty. Great meet tonight. I will go ahead and officially adjourn the meeting. See y'all next one. Thank you.